called to Brussels for consultations. Additional steps are expected as early as Monday at the national level. In these difficult circumstances, I am personally especially pleased that despite the tough Brexit negotiations, the European Union has demonstrated unanimous and unequivocal unity with the UK in the face of this attack. Leaders also discussed Turkey in view of our Monday meeting with President Erdogan. In this context, the European Council strongly condemned Turkey's continued illegal actions in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Aegean Sea. This issue will be raised in Varna, where we hope to have a wide-ranging discussion on EU-Turkey relations and on the way ahead. I am aware that it will not be an easy meeting. The EU is concerned not just with the situation in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Aegean. Certainly a number of other complicated issues will be discussed in Varna, including developments in Turkey and its actions in Syria. Still, we are neighbours and we need to find a way to talk to each other openly and cooperate in areas of common interest. As regards President Trump's decision on tariffs, I will leave it to Jean-Claude as we stand by the Commission on this issue. During our discussion on EMU, President Draghi recalled that the EU economy is back to pre-crisis growth levels and remains extremely strong. In fact, we are experiencing the most favourable situation since the introduction of the euro, which makes this a very good time to reflect strategically on our long-term ambitions. This is what today's Euro Summit was all about. Many of the themes we discussed, like a fiscal capacity for the euro area, are controversial, but I see avenues to be explored. In June, we will come back to take concrete decisions and provide guidance on the way forward. The most urgent political priority remains strengthening the banking union and further developing the ESM. This is my goal. On Brexit, we want to use the positive momentum in the negotiations to finally settle outstanding issues, such as the solution to avoid a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. In parallel, we will start our first talks about the future EU-UK relationship. Leaders will assess in June if the Irish question has been resolved and how to go about a common declaration on our future. Let me conclude by expressing my concern over what seems to be an ongoing terrorist attack in southern France. We are following this closely as we stand in full solidarity with France and its people. Thank you.
Thank you. And now President Juncker of the European Commission.
Oui, alors que je prends la parole devant vous, la France, qui a déjà été durement éprouvée par le terrorisme, vient d'être encore une fois frappée par un attelage essanglant. Je tiens à exprimer en mon nom personnel et en celui de l'ensemble de la Commission toute notre émotion et notre plein soutien aux autorités et au peuple français. Et je voudrais surtout rendre hommage à l'action des forces de l'ordre. Le combat contre le terrorisme est un combat difficile, un combat de longue haleine. Nous le mènerons et nous le gagnerons.
We will engage in and that we will end up winning together.
Le Conseil d'hier et d'aujourd'hui,
Yesterday and today's Council,
pas aussi difficile qu'on l'avait prédit, a été placé en fait sous le signe de l'unité, de la détermination
we came out of it showing unity, determination and pragmatism. On trade, our message, I think, was very clear. Europe will defend fair and open trade relations based on agreed international rules. And yesterday, just before midnight, we saw how important it is for the European Union to be united when the United States agreed to a temporary exemption of tariffs on steel and aluminium. That was announced by the United States through to the 1st of May.
News. The decision recognizes our role as a long-standing and trusted security partner, as well as a close trading partner. The US, by what the President was saying yesterday, is recognizing that the European Union is an entity. It cannot be divided into 28 parts. That's the good part of the news. The bad part is that the US are expecting us to conclude the negotiations we will engage in the next coming days until the 1st of May. It doesn't seem to me that this date is a very realistic one, given the broad issues we have to discuss with the US, and so we will advocate a system where these exemptions for the European Union will be permanent and not only temporary. As far as the Brexit is concerned, I don't have anything to add to what Donald was saying. We were discussing this in depth, but the guidelines the President of the European Council did submit to the mediation of the European Council were adopted in less than half a minute, so there is a united front of the member states, the 27. Particular attention was given to the border issue between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Nous avons discuté nos relations avec la Turquie. Vous savez que nous aurons un sommet avec le président Erdogan lundi prochain à Varna. J'envisage cette rencontre avec des sentiments mélangés et divers parce que la masse des problèmes conflictuels entre la Turquie et l'Union européenne ne cesse de s'agrandir, mais nous aurons un débat franc et ouvert avec le président turc, ne cachant pas nos désaccords avec la Turquie, mais néanmoins nous souhaiterions renforcer notre coopération avec la Turquie. Über die Wirtschafts- und Währungsunion haben wir uns heute Morgen auch ausgetauscht. Es gab keine schriftlichen Schlussfolgerungen, eigentlich überhaupt keine Schlussfolgerungen. Ich habe nur darauf hingewiesen, dass wir uns unsere Erfolge auch manchmal erfreuen sollten. Die Beschäftigungsquote in der Europäischen Union und vor allem in der Eurozone ist so hoch wie noch nie. Die Haushaltsdefizite wurden nach unten korrigiert von 6,1 durchschnittliches Haushaltsdefizit auf 0,9 im Jahre 2018. Die Arbeitslosigkeit fällt. Wer also behauptet, der Stabilitäts- und Wachstumspakt hat den Versagt, ignoriert die Fakten, die einer derartigen Behauptung zugrunde liegen müssen. Ich habe die Kollegen im Europäischen Rat darauf aufmerksam gemacht, dass die Kommission vielfältige Vorschläge vorgelegt hat. Es wäre gut, wenn Rat und Parlament sich dem zustimmen, annähern würden. Gleiches gilt auch, weil wir auch über Wettbewerbsfähigkeit geredet haben, in Sachen digitales Europa. Dort hat die Kommission 24 Gesetzesvorschläge vorgelegt. 11 davon wurden inzwischen verabschiedet. Es bleibt also noch viel zu tun. Die Wettbewerbsfähigkeit Europas sich nach oben bewegen lassen möchte, wäre gut beraten, diesen Vorschlägen der Europäischen Kommission, wenn auch nicht in Gänze, so trotzdem in großen Teilen zuzustimmen. Bedankt.
Thank you. The floor is now open for your questions. I see a lot. I think the first hand was to the lady in the sixth row, Lucia, please.
Hello, Lucia Bellán, El País. It's a question to both presidents. I would like to ask you about the long discussion on Russia last night. Why did EU leaders fall short of agreeing tougher measures vis-à-vis Moscow, not just at the national level but at European level? Thank you.
In fact, our reaction is without precedent. It's very difficult to prepare an adequate reaction of this kind of behaviors like knife agent attack. we will never have a real chance to respond adequately because we are completely different than the perpetrators of this attack, if you know what I mean. And this is why I was focused yesterday on, for me, the most important political goal, to mean the whole community as united as possible against this very dramatic moment and situation, and we achieved this goal. As you know, there's nothing new. We have different positions, different interests. It's also about different traditions. It's about geography. This political landscape in Europe towards Russia, and this is why it's not so easy to keep the 28 group together. In this context, I really appreciate the goodwill, determination, and a good political instinct of all my colleagues yesterday. I think that it was the best reaction we were able to decide on.
We did agree yesterday night that we are sharing the assessment by the British authorities that it is highly likely that Russia is behind this awful attack. We decided to call back our European ambassador in Moscow, first to debrief him on the outcome and the development of the discussions we had yesterday night, and second, to listen to him when he is explaining what is happening in Russia. This is an extraordinary measure. We never took it before.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I am not here to comment this situation in details, but as a result of our discussion yesterday evening, I expect that a number of member states will take additional measures towards Russia on Monday. It means that it's not the end of our actions.
Thank you. The next question, yes, to the gentleman. Alex, please, to your left.
Thank you very much. Alex Pigman from Agence France-Presse. I'm over here, President.
Yeah.
President Juncker, I had a question to you about trade, actually, and about Donald Trump specifically. Is that Donald Trump seems to be setting up this new style of doing trade negotiations, which is I slap tariffs and then we talk. And I was just wondering, are you afraid that by engaging in these discussions with him, that you're encouraging him in this new style of doing trade agreements?
I'm not spokesperson of President Trump.
No? Okay.
And I don't have the intention nor the ambition to become spokesperson of President Trump. He did not take a decision. He was deciding yesterday to suspend the measures he had imagined as far as the trade relations with the European Union are concerned. I was saying that it seems to me highly impossible to cover all the issues we have to discuss with our American partners from now to the 1st of May, and we are asking a permanent exemption. I'm never commenting style questions of other. I wouldn't say world leaders, because then this would imply that I'm one of those, of others.
Okay, thank you. We'll go here to the third row, to our right. Mark.
Question for Mr. Juncker, Mark Peperkorn, Volkskrant. I just would like to know, is it correct that you consider to step down as Commission President if your Secretary General is forced to leave? And if so, don't you think this will increase actually the appetite for the European Parliament to do it, because they get two for the price of one?
As Mr. Selmayr will not step down, because I'm the only one being capable to ask him to step down. The other question is irrelevant.
Thank you. And here, Lawrence, to our left, still in the middle, fifth row.
Thanks very much. Lawrence Norman of the Wall Street Journal. Two questions. For President Tusk, you talked about the actions Monday that member states will take, showing that we're not at the end of the road in terms of action. Are we at the end of the road in terms of European Union action, or is this something that you expect leaders will come back to in June? And for President Juncker, so we know that you don't think there's enough time until May the 1st to resolve all the issues, but are you saying until you have guarantees of a permanent exemption that the EU and the US shouldn't begin those talks?
I didn't catch this. You mentioned June as a date, but I'm not sure what we are talking about now.
Yeah, it's just very simply, we will get national actions as of Monday, as you said. But what about...
It's my expectation rather than message, but it's...
Sure, understood. But what about EU-level actions? Is the last action that we will see at an EU level the decision to recall the ambassador? Or could there be more? Is this something that you expect us to come back to in June?
For me, it's too early today to say what will be the possible next step. We should wait also for some results of investigations also, and I will be more talkative on this maybe in April, maybe.
Yes, as far as the question addressed to me is concerned, Mrs. Malmström, the Trade Commission, and American counterparts did agree to establish a high-level working group to discuss all the issues which are relevant in that very framework. I do think that it will not be possible, as I said, to conclude these debates, discussions, negotiations before the 1st of May, but I'm sure that our American friends are willing to enter serious, future-oriented, goal-oriented negotiations with the European Union.
Thank you. And a final question. I think it goes to the gentleman in the sixth row. Michael. Yes, Michael Peel.
Thank you. Michael Peel, Financial Times. Just to come back to Russia for Mr. Tusk, on Monday, how many countries do you think are going to put in place measures, and will it be diplomatic expulsions, or are there other measures anticipated? And for Mr. Juncker, where do you think what the EU and member states are now doing on Russia leaves what you had talked about earlier in the week? Was you had urged a security cooperation of some sort between the EU and Russia? Doesn't it cut across your words earlier this week?
More than one, but I don't think then that it will be the whole group. I think this is what I can say today. So.
I had not the impression that what I was saying at the beginning of the week concerning our relations with Russia was denied by the members of the European Council. Everyone expressed its views, condemning what happened in Salisbury, but everyone was also indicating the willingness to develop, as far as Russia is concerned, better relations. This is not a contradiction. We are condemning, but we need an open channel to discuss with Russia all relevant continental questions.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference.
Thank you.
Okay.